Hello, this is Bryan of House Cogman, and I wrote this episode of Game of Thrones.
And my name is Alik Sakharov. I directed the episode that Bryan wrote.
And here we are, the map of Westeros. One of the most celebrated elements of the first season, and this season, of course, we get to see some of the new lands represented in this opening sequence. Dragonstone being one of them. That's one of the great things about George's novels, is that he just keeps expanding the world over and over and over again, and we get to expand it on the show.
If you're ever in King's Landing, memorize this map, this aerial view. Great opening, really.
So it was a real thrill for me when we were prepping season 3, and I was informed by David and Dan that Alik Sakharov would be directing my season 3 script, because he was so much fun during season 1 as a DP, and I couldn't wait.
Season 2 script.
What did I say, season 3?
Yeah.
I'm already screwing up. Well, we'll have to retake that. Or maybe we'll keep it in. This is,
it's good. I like that.
This was the dynamic on set. We're basically just correcting each other.
Yeah.
when we weren't talking about Chekhov.
And Tarkovsky.
Yeah, and Tarkovsky. Let's really make this the worst DVD commentary of all time and just talk about the plays of Chekhov and the films of Tarkovsky. What do you think?
No.
Good.
We'll stick to the plan.
That's smart of you. And of course, the wonderful opening title by Ramin Djawadi. I just love his season 2 music. I write the show listening to the season 1 soundtrack, and I can't wait to get a hold of the season 2 soundtrack, because some of the new themes he came up with are just extraordinary.
Out! All of you.
Originally we had something that we shot outside, but I'm so glad that it's starting the way it started right now.
Yeah, the original, well, it's funny, the very first draft I wrote, what was your term for that, Alik? I think it was like the Lawrence of Arabia draft, which was like...
It was huge.
3.5 hour.
Yeah.
I mean, the original version, he was beating Jon up in the yard and kicking him in the face, and Gren was coming in, and Gren tried to save Jon, and Craster decked Gren, and it was a whole epic fight. And then we lost that, and then I think you had the idea to have him being dragged through the yard.
Yeah, and
right?
Then we shot.
Did we shoot it? I don't think we got to it, did we?
We didn't get to shoot that, but we just shot an exterior establishing shot.
Right.
And then I tried a version of it, and it didn't kind of work because kind of dragging itself. Starting with Jon basically just flying through the doors was very effective. And
very effective. And of course, picking up, just for context here, Jon has witnessed a White Walker stealing the baby. And here he's realizing that Mormont knows a bit about Craster's doings.
He's doing a wonderful job, Kit, reacting to that too.
He's murdering his own children. He's a monster. Many a time.
Oh yeah, Kit's terrific in this scene. I wish I had a little more for him in this episode. This is it. But they have a wonderful sort of father-son dynamic this season. Mormont and Jon. Mormont, of course, played by James Cosmo. That was really, really fun to explore. And this was an interesting, in terms of adaptation, an interesting scene to work with. The basic content of it is actually from the book. It's just that the context of the scene is different. In the book, they're talking about Craster taking his babies away and sacrificing him, but it has a whole much darker layer because now Jon has seen exactly, what that entails. So it was interesting to sort of adapt the scene with this new wrinkle in there. And it was tricky. We went through a lot of different versions, but I like
that it's adding so different dimension to this. Now that he understands that Mormont knows.
And I remember, Alik, you had James do a lot of different takes, varying degrees of fear.
Yeah.
When he hears about the walkers. One of the great things about watching Alik Sakharov work with actors is he's folks at home. They do lots of takes, all kinds of different versions of different reactions and different takes on the scene. And it's such a rich variety that you get to play with in the editing room.
The idea is to try and get different and varied readings from the actors, so that when you go through the edit process, you comb through it and basically select the best moments that were intended for the scene, and then string it together, and hopefully it all fits. And it somehow did work in this episode.
And I think the cast really appreciated it too. And this, of course, if you want an actor that's going to give you a dozen wonderful variations on a line, that John Bradley is your man.
Oh.
And I think this was this the first scene we shot for this episode, Alik?
Yeah, it was the very first day.
Yeah.
You shouldn't give it away.
I'm not giving it away.
It's actually it's our third setup of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and actually it was our first day. And I remember we shot I think 4 takes with John, and he just nailed it on the 4th take. I remember how he just got us all and like trembling from excitement.
Yeah, I came up to him right afterward and said, you managed to do it exactly how I heard it in my head as I was writing it.
Oh, it's great.
So
and I had a little rehearsal with them prior to the shooting, and I was wondering what he was going to do, and he just nailed it.
Now this is one of, I think, 2 Bran warging sequences in the season. This was quite a challenge to pull off, right, Alik? I actually wasn't here. This is one of the few things I wasn't here to watch you shoot.
What we did is actually we shot in reverse.
Oh, is that right?
Because the camera had to land at a very particular spot. And we tried a couple of versions and realized that the best way to do it is shoot it in reverse and then reverse everything back for playback to appear to be normal. And it worked. That is the moment when camera jumps over the bed.
Oh, I see.
Simulating Summer's point of view.
I'm not me. I'm running through the Codswood, sniffing the dirt, tasting blood in my mouth when I've made a fresh kill.
And Isaac's doing a terrific job here. I remember do you remember this popping sounds on the stage? And
oh man, this is at the stage at Banbridge. There was something going on, and it's a wonderful facility. I let me just start there. But there were, I guess, some strange things that there was a plastic roof or ceiling to the soundstage, and it would just go pop, bow, bow, bow.
But what's amazing is that I heard not a single pop.
When we did this scene, you're right.
And the way it got together and strung together in editing, I don't hear anything.
The old gods were protecting this scene.
just about, yeah.
As it touches on the mythical ancient forces of the North that are starting to communicate with Bran.
I'm sure it has to do something with Valyrian steel.
I'm sure, yeah, it has to do something. It's here we go.
There you go.
Steel. This was interesting in terms of how the preparation. I remember there was a bit of dialogue in the original draft of the scene that led into the scene that you see here, and Donald and Isaac missed that. They felt that it was their way to get into the scene. So even though it's not here in the episode and was never intended to be, I remember you had them start each take improvising versions of that first part of the scene where I believe Lewin is trying to get Bran to take a sleeping potion to help him sleep, and Bran's resisting, and it helped them launch as actors into the scene. It was really fun to watch.
Well, very often, and since you've been an actor in your previous life, you probably understand where it's all going. And,
I'm a lapsed actor.
Yeah, right. I mean, what a lot of actors do is they warm themselves up prior to starting the actual scene by having to ad-lib something.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing, and they were doing such a great job, and this scene turned out to be seamless.
This is a very important relationship in the second book and the second season, Lewin and Bran, and I was really happy that this scene got in. I don't think it was in the original outline, and it was one that emerged in later drafts, and I was very pleased with how it turned out. Here we go.
I like this cut, too.
Now, this, of course, was one of the great Game of Thrones horror stories of Season 2, the day the set blew away.
Oh, yes, I remember. And we shot this...
well, some of these shots, I think this shot here, right?
This was the original day.
Yeah.
When we shut down everything at around, 12 or 12:30 or maybe 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. And then the storm came, and... actually, it was really awful. It blew away I think it was the cafeteria tent. A few people actually got hurt, and thankfully, turned out to be all right. But it was
that was
pretty
one
awful.
huge tent too to blow away.
Oh man, it was. I mean, some good old Northern Irish weather. but we regrouped, and it ended up being the last thing I think we shot for this episode was the remaining part of the sequence.
Yep.
Thankfully, the light was such that you could use the...
There was just one pop of the sun that came out just for a brief, very brief period of time, and then it disappeared, and then we were in continuity.
I know that this revealing gown that Natalie wears kept her quite cold in the this weather.
Poor thing. I mean, she suffered through it.
Yeah, you'd never know it though. She
did good. She's a great
committed.
trooper. Yeah.
I was so excited when I got the outline and realized I was going to get to write the introduction of one of my favorite characters in all of A Song of Ice and Fire, Bryan, the Beauty of Tarth.
And my God, the blogs just love you.
And Gwendolyn Christie is just, it's as if she stepped out of the book.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, we have a lot of different, varying cast members. Some of them have, very different physicality from just the descriptions in the book, or even different takes on the characters. And that's great too. I like the variety of that. In this case, though, Gwen as Bryan is exactly as I pictured her when reading it.
Her delivery here is fantastic, and I like that ferocious intensity. She really wants the job.
Absolutely. Well, she truly chivalrous. I mean, she may be the most chivalrous warrior in the entire saga.
Your Grace, I have the honor to bring you Lady Catelyn Stark, sent as an envoy by her son, Robb, Lord of Winterfell.
Lord of Winterfell.
There's something so pure about her in this dark and corrupt story that I really respond to as a reader and as a writer.
And one of my favorite characters, played by an inimitable, I love her, Michelle Fairley.
Oh, yes.
Just great.
My lady, I swear to you, I will
Oh, those eyes, man, those piercing eyes.
And Gethin really came into his own in this season, too. He was wonderful in season 1, but the swagger of Renly, now that he has this following and this power, and the Iron Throne is so close, it's a great arc. And then of course, we see that behind this swagger and a few scenes from now, there's something else entirely going on, which is what's so terrific about this story.
I love what Gwendolyn is doing here, and you should kneel before
you should kneel before a king.
I mean, the way she delivered it was fantastic.
I do not sit on my son's war councils, and if I did, I would not share.
This is another case of, I originally wrote it to be a huge kind of, both episodes I wrote for this show so far featured huge tournament sequences that were scaled down. Boy, it's great because it's all you really need are these close-ups of these characters and these wonderful actors. I mean, there's definitely scope and spectacle to it, of course, but stripping it down to the essentials of the storytelling.
Well, the idea here also was that we needed to find a location that didn't require so many extras. I mean, we only had about 200 extras, and for Renly having 100,000 people in his command, for us to stage something like this within the confines of what we could afford, kind of dictated its own, and I think we actually pulled it off.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't know their own size at all.
This was a scene that was actually Gethin's idea, that little moment where he checks in with one of the commoners, to sort of show his altruism. It was a great note, and we put it into the script.
It's a game to you, isn't it?
Wonderful, and I like the oneness of the shot, actually. I remember we covered it, but I'm glad that we didn't we didn't come in right up until this moment where we needed to do the over-the-shoulders here.
I think we just heard the only utterance of the phrase "winter is coming" in season 2. I could be wrong, but I now that Ned's gone, people aren't saying it quite as much.
If you follow me, my lady.
This
Look
is
at that
this is the perspective, the camera placement, really, to accentuate Bryan the Beauty's height, and I mean, look.
Oh, it's astonishing! It's so arresting when you first see it. I remember people turning to me going, "How tall is she?" And she is quite tall.
No, actually, landscape helped us a little bit because she was on elevated plateau.
Here we have my favorite subplot of season 2, the Theon Greyjoy.
And Alfie does deliver. My God.
Oh, He really knocked it out of the park this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of thing where, when you're on our show, we have the benefit of telling the actors that are, preparing to audition, okay, you don't have a whole lot to do this season, but just wait till season 2 or just wait till season 3 because we know essentially what's going to happen. And, Theon kind of sneaks up on the reader and the viewer of the show as a major character in this part of the story.
The last time I saw you...
This was a scene that we shot the entire day, I remember.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, there was a much more elaborate kind of opening to the scene, as I recall, that we shot.
And because we ran a little too long, we decided to trim it. And actually, I'm glad that we did it. It's a very effective way of looking at the scene.
The wolf pup has gone south. The entirety of the Northern Army.
What I like about this scene is how a relationship between
Balon and
Balon and Alfie.
Patrick Malahide, and Alfie as Theon, and Gemma Whalen as Yara Greyjoy.
Mm-hmm. And what's happening here is that you see the arc, and what Alfie is doing here is just terrific.
Mm. Yeah,
look at
that look right there. Winterfell. Yeah. Wait a minute.
Yes.
Oh, we're attacking Winterfell. Yeah, it was a conscious choice of ours early on starting really with the pilot when we realized that Alfie and Rich Madden were of an age. In the book, Theon's somewhat older than the Stark boys. And we decided to make them close as brothers and contemporaries, and to make Theon's betrayal a choice. In the book, he feels a little bad about it, but you never get the feeling that he's, ever going to go against the Greyjoys. And we made a choice to make it a very difficult decision for him, and I think it really pays off.
It really does.
I fought with Robb Stark. I know
I like the intensity that's beginning to evolve right now.
Mm-hmm. And even Alfie's physicality here is very interesting. He's stooped and kind of, he can't help but be lower than his father. You know what I mean? In other scenes, he's preening around, but when he's in these scenes with his dad and his sister and he feels out of his element, he sort of shrinks. It's kind of subtle thing that a great actor does.
It's just pure gold. Take a look at what he's doing here.
Yeah. So still.
Mm.
What are our words?
Our words.
Some great piece of writing here, I gotta say. Just
well, I take what George gives me, and thankfully he gives me the greatest characters and greatest story that I've ever encountered. So
wonderful. I mean, the intensity
easy.
Right here is growing. Take a look.
Well, it was fun to get the Greyjoy philosophy into this. Oh, and this is where he really just lets him have it after years of holding it in.
Yeah.
You gave me away, if you remember. The day you
suddenly he snaps.
Yeah.
After he crushed you.
And then
boom!
Pow!
Don't mess with a Greyjoy.
No.
And this was, again, a great moment to write. It doesn't happen in the book. You don't have this confrontation.
Boy, you gave me away like I was some dog you didn't want anymore.
And I remember Alfie was sort of withdrawn this day. You might remember. He was really working very hard, even when the cameras weren't rolling, to sort of stay in this space. He and Gemma became really good friends and joking around and cutting up on set. But on that day, he sort of kept his distance from her. He really needed to,
For a good reason. I mean, for an actor, especially with a scene like this, you want to conserve your energy because it's all on the screen and he's putting it all out. It's great.
And here we have a somewhat more lighthearted scene.
Yeah, wait.
And of course, season 2 is really the year of Tyrion. It worked out quite well for us that Peter emerged as such a favorite, Peter Dinklage, like I need to say his full name for people watching this, but for purposes of commentary, that he emerged as such a fan favorite this first season because he's front and center in the second season, and Peter just savored this stuff.
I honestly think he can do no wrong. I mean, it's unbelievable the range that he puts out, and especially in this episode, this was just flabbergasting to watch him work, and evolve into this character that he is in full force. Amazing.
Yeah. And this is actually, some of this dialogue is taken from a scene, you know, the second half of book 3. We moved up a lot of this stuff with Shay being placed within the Red Keep for a lot of reasons. Some production, some story-wise. We wanted to get her, as you'll see later in the episode, her meeting Sansa earlier than she does in the books.
I'm too stupid to understand.
But they have a lot of fun together. They have a nice chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
This is Sibel Kikil, of course, as Shay.
I like it when he goes for the kiss.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. And one of my favorite scenes.
I remember you came to me in my office, as you would often do. You would run in and go, "I got it. It's Bergman, man. It's pure Bergman."
It really is. It really is. The intensity of the scene is pure Bergman. I mean, you know, it's very important for me basically to find some sort of element, some sort of binding element for the scene. And if I find it, then I know I have the scene, and it has to be in my head. And when Bergman references came to mind in reference to the scene, I was like, I know the scene.
Yeah.
I know what to do with it.
Sort of quiet cruelty.
No, it's great.
You know?
I mean, look at what they're all doing.
Yeah, worst dinner ever. I mean, this was a fun scene. It was actually one of my favorite scenes because originally it was actually a two-hander between Myrcella and Cersei.
Yes, I remember.
That occurred later in the episode, and it was actually a scene I quite liked. But David and Dan quite rightly said, you know, Sansa needs to be our way in these scenes.
Yeah.
And so I sort of dreamed up this scene, and I also like that it highlights the very sweet brother and sister of Joffrey. And the way that Cersei is already kind of poisoning the minds of these sweet young kids. I think my favorite line of dialogue in the entire episode is when she says to Tommen, you know, would you like Joffrey to kill Robb? And he goes, no, I don't think so. I was so excited when I wrote that. I don't know why.
It's innocence. It's pure
innocence. Yeah, it's
lovely.
innocence in a nest of vipers.
I love this scene as well.
Yeah, and David and Dan are largely responsible for the content of this one. I sort of wrote the bare bones of it.
I remember the bare bones version of it, and I was actually thinking if we stuck with the bare bones, it would be a different scene because it would be all about Sansa and her own reflection. She's looking at herself, not realizing or not recognizing herself any longer.
Yeah, there wasn't much dialogue. It was a very simple scene.
Yeah, but in here, it's creating a new arc.
No, you said to brush your... Not now.
It is. It's Sansa actually getting to exercise some power. She's being, so beat down. It's important to remember that she grew up thinking that the world worked a certain way and that ladies, have their maids and the maids, and even as she's being, psychologically destroyed by Cersei and the royal family, she sort of takes it out on Shay, but Shay is too, independent to even, either she realizes Sansa's doing it and doesn't care, or, I think that's probably what it is,
But also she's under protection of...
Tyrion, that's true. Nothing's going to happen to her.
Exactly right. So she feels, in many ways, protected.
Yeah, and I think, and as the season goes on, Shay really begins to sympathize with Sansa and come to care for her, and they have a really very moving relationship that we're going to see play out over the next couple of seasons.
And I think that's the reason why this particular scene works, is because very often something that starts kind of rough evolves into something interesting, and it creates a different arc and interesting arc for the characters. And I think this one is. Oh, there it is.
Here we go.
I love what they're doing here.
And here's where we got to use the word insalubrious in dialogue, which, if you can do that. Yeah, this is...
You got me looking in the dictionary, by the way.
And again, this is the sort of joy. I mean, look, I'm an enormous Anglophile, so I watching, just going to work every day and watching actors like Julian Glover and Conleth Hill there's, it's the best job in the world, if only for that. And this was a really, really challenging and fun sequence to get right. And it was a real puzzle.
Well, originally we had it in different locations, and then
right, that's right.
Remember how we talked and like, hey, we should do it in one location and just string the events such that it's a surprise, and cut, and different people are introduced through the cuts, and it worked out.
Yeah, it did, and I think, frankly, it makes the scene clearer to someone who might be a little confused about what's going on. Actually, I think if we had cut to him walking in the garden with Varys, which I think was the original, it might not have. It wouldn't have flowed as well, and it might not even been as clear to the audience. And here we
Boom.
go.
That's good.
I remember you were like a kid in a candy store this day shooting this scene.
I just loved it.
Conversations that begin this way.
I mean, scenes like this and great writing, great dialogue, great actors. I mean, all you have to do is just jump on them around the monitor saying, "Yeah, we got it."
Yeah, the small council scenes are some of my favorites in the book, and I didn't get one in this episode, but this filled that void for me, where the real power plays happen.
I love this cut too.
Oh, and here we go.
Within, and we can have his father's ships.
But remember, you must tell no one.
Tell no one what?
I remember I was watching this with a bunch of friends, and they went, "Ah,
yeah, right." That was good.
And this is the first, or one of the first. No, actually, the very first is the previous episode with Janos Slynt. But this is where you really see that Tyrion is well suited to this job. That this was what he was born to do, and it was never anything that he thought he would ever be able to do. And that's be the power player. He has the skills that poor dead Ned lacked. And
Peter totally owns that character.
Oh, I mean, look at that. I mean, look at that confidence. The way he uses props is Peter's terrific at that.
Yeah,
look at that little gesture with that glass. Those are the kind of little subtle details that, oh man.
But I also like the way he delivers right before Harrenhal. Take a look at this. It's just a little pause before he just nails that.
You can see the wheels turning, and same with Aidan. There's the Littlefinger who wants the power so badly, and he can taste it. Aidan Gillen is another. I mean, I know it probably gets old for the listeners for me to just say, "Oh, this actor's amazing. Oh, this actor's amazing." But we have the best cast on television, and that's all there is to it.
I didn't need this.
But we really do.
It's settled then.
Good. See, that shows you how many times I've seen this bloody episode that I can. I almost actually, the title of the episode is "What Is Dead May Never Die," but for a minute I thought maybe we should call it "The Queen Mustn't Know."
It would be funny, though.
Wouldn't that be fun? But it seemed just too specific to just one plot line, whereas "What Is Dead May Never Die" kind of,
what Finn and Gethin are doing here are just great. Look at the chemistry between these two.
They really trusted each other,
yeah.
And I remember when they were first cast and came in, I think for the first read-throughs, the three of us had a conversation just about the dynamics of their relationship and how homosexuality is viewed in this world, and they really wanted to do it right and to make their relationship make sense, because they really, if you think about it, have very little screen time to portray it,
But you totally believe that they have a relationship. And I mean, look, it's basically a dynamic between the two people who have a partnership.
Yeah.
So I wasn't humiliated enough already.
And what I like about this scene is you're able to get some of the plot exposition of, Renly's political marriage, but it comes from a very human place in that Loras is upset that his lover humiliated him in public.
Yeah.
And I know just the best way to get to make you suffer for what you did to me. You have to go and seal the deal with my sister, which I know you don't want to do.
But it's also it's necessary to seal that.
But it also is necessary. Yeah, he's not wrong. You're absolutely right. He's not wrong. So you have a few things going on, which is a lot of fun and to write, and a lot of fun to see the actors, negotiate those different turns.
I mean, this line coming up that Vassal's beginning to snicker.
Oh yeah.
Your vassals are starting to snigger behind your back. Brides aren't usually virgins too.
Yeah,
that's great.
See, he's telling the truth, but he's also sticking it to him. There's a couple of things going on there,
which is good. But it's such a great psychological complexity. So
yeah, I just realized that's 2 scenes where we have someone going in for a kiss and getting shut down. We must have been working through something that happened in our teenage years, huh, Alik? I don't know.
And beyond.
And beyond.
There she is.
Natalie Dormer, who another case of where season 2 has diverged somewhat from the novels. Marjorie is a very important character to the plot. Much of the plot hinges on her in the books, but you don't really get to know her until much later.
Thank you, Your Grace.
It's a lovely gown.
And we made the decision to go behind the curtain of this political marriage. And then when Natalie was cast, that informed how we wrote the character as well. She became a little more worldly wise. She's a little bit older. Well, I mean, the character I think is 16 in the books, so it's just a different thing, and it was really fun to explore, and we're going to see a lot more of her in future seasons.
I remember when we were doing this on a day, and the range that she had was immense. I mean, she was bringing so much into the scene. I didn't even imagine that the scene could evolve into such a powerhouse, and she did it.
Yeah, on paper, I mean, it's obviously a very fun scene and a very sexy scene.
Yeah.
And maybe when you read it, a little more farcical. And these two brought such kind of pain, or Gethin obviously did, and it's a much more tragic and frankly deeper scene than I thought it was originally. Oh, do you want my brother to come in and help? Oh.
What? Right. But what's interesting is that she really means it. Means it in
again. Yeah, it's total. It's sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wants to help him in a way.
She does,
and she wants to help herself. Obviously.
I mean, she's. This is the situation they're in, and there are certain things that need to be done. And
but I love the level of sophistication that she puts out. I mean, she already understands how the court works, and she knows how to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And there she is going for the manipulation, a very subtle manipulation nonetheless.
Yeah. And Renly, in turn, here you're seeing that he in many ways wasn't quite ready for all of this. And again, that's a change from the books. I'd say it's a change. We never really get inside Renly's head in the books. There's a confidence and a swagger that he displays outside, but there's a real turmoil and a lot of doubt, about the kind of person he has to be to get all of this done.
I also like the compositional value here. It's kind of painterly and
absolutely
brings us into the scene. And this particular cut too. It's very intimate. We get inside of these people's minds.
You are king.
And a lovely music cue here by Ramin.
Oh,
too
beautiful.
To be the icing on the cake. A tender kiss.
And
oh man,
my second favorite.
Now the two of them are very close. Lena, Headey, and Peter Dinklage are very close friends in real life, and it really helped for them doing scenes like this, because I think they could feel very safe with one another and really go places emotionally where they trusted each other as actors.
They really do trust each other, yes, and especially later on in the scene when she does something physical.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, when she shoves him, I remember you could hear a pin drop when that happened, and that's not scripted.
It wasn't. It was just pure emotion and pure acting, and somehow it worked. And we both, I remember you and I just jumped.
Oh yeah, and I think it was the only take where she even did it.
Yeah,
and it's very thrilling watching the two of them work, because it's never the same twice, and I mean that in the best way. Because they're always trying new things and always living completely within the moment.
Her pretty little head on a spike right beside yours.
Get out! Get out!
There it is.
Yeah. But that's the fun of it, and that's the fun of to be doing scenes with the kind of a little bit of different perspective in every single read or every single take, because then obviously you can select and bridge things together.
And this is my other favorite scene, funnily enough, from just along with the little dinner table scene. This scene has no dialogue, but yeah, I mean, it's when you can achieve with a great director and a great actor and a great crew, such a powerful emotional story arc with no dialogue, then that's what you want to do. And this, I actually have that, not the one he's burning, but the close up. I have that framed on my wall. That note to Rob. And this was a pickup that day.
Look at that.
And this is it's Kurosawa.
It is totally Kurosawa. I loved it.
What a day this was.
Look at that. That's Kurosawa.
Yeah, when you're on set watching a scene like this in a location like this, you really just kind of have to stop and remember how lucky you are to be involved with a production like this.
I have to say, the gods were on our side. Remember when we got there for about 40 minutes, there was complete stillness and there was no wind.
Oh yeah, the flags wouldn't flap.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
I was like, oh my God, what's happening? We're in Ireland, God damn it.
Yeah, it was right. It was a beautiful, clear day and there was no wind, and it's like, God, we're supposed to be on the Iron Islands.
I don't know. We prayed to gods. Yeah. We prayed to gods, and
the drowned god in this case,
and the wind picked up,
helped us out. Yeah, and this was a fun scene in the book. This similar encounter happens, but it's much less of a ceremonial scene. But we felt it would be an important way to illustrate that he is now firmly siding with the Kraken of House Greyjoy. Oh, look at that look.
Look at that look Alfie gives. My God.
And his dad's giving him nothing back. He's like, prove it. Great, you got baptized. Prove it. Oh,
look at this. I've betrayed my friend.
I betrayed my friend, but there's no going back.
And
one of many times that I nearly ruined a take because I was jumping up and down with glee.
Well, actually, wind was helping us.
True.
I don't appreciate being made of.
I love this one.
Yeah, and that little moment's, I think, important to talk about. I had scripted this scene with Tyrion really enjoying his victory and drinking, and his feet are up, and Peter quite rightly said, I don't think he's feeling that. I think he realized for the first time in a long time that his sister is a human being, and he's not, he's not enjoying his victory because of that last encounter with Cersei,
It's true, but remember we did rehearse the scene exactly as was written, and then it evolved, and then he said, I don't think it should be that.
Yeah, and he was dead on. Yeah, and that opening bit is so powerful. And here we're introducing a new wrinkle in the story that he sends Littlefinger to treat with Catelyn, which is also an addition that's not in the book.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
No, don't.
You know what? You're right.
We got to do one of these days. We're gonna just do the Tyrion Bronn spin-off show. I mean, it's what everyone wants, right?
Those two make great.
So much fun. Now this is one of my favorite scenes in Clash of Kings in the second book, and again, it's a scene. And much of this is directly from the book, and it's a wonderful way where George gets plot and character and humor and everything kind of dancing together, and then you have an actor like Peter who finds that weird little prop and.
I mean, it kind of looks like a circumcision tool of some sort.
Because why wouldn't you have one of those in your bedchamber? But look at that. I mean, and that's that's an actor seeing a prop and using it.
They're no goats, half men. Those guys are enjoying it. And at some point, actually, the tone of the scene shifts, and then when Peter gets up, he's now totally serious. He's not.
Well, that's yeah. That's the thing. He drops the. I don't like his beard. He drops the swagger and starts really interrogating him.
Yeah.
And Peter just intuitively, knows how to play those little shifts without you don't have to tell him anything. He knows. And here we get a little bit of light shed on the Jon Arryn mystery.
Oh, I love this approach. Yeah.
And you learn a little bit as the series goes on about that murder that really started the entire series off. And Julian, the only problem with this scene is you then don't see Julian for several episodes. That's, had to be done, but because that's the story, but you do miss him. And there's Tyrion, who is sympathetic to the little person, when most people of his station aren't. A little bit of compassion here.
It's a great look.
Yeah. And Maisie D, who is a wonderful actress who played Daisy, the poor whore who gets terribly beaten in the next episode.
You will be pleased to know.
My head is off to Conleth and Peter in this scene. It's just, I don't know.
This is one of my favorite relationships in the second season. Varys finally has a hand of the king that he feels he can work with.
Yeah, these two can do no wrong, I have to say.
And this was a scene that was not in the outline, but the riddle is a terrific element in the book, and I wanted to find a way to put it in the show. In the book, he poses the riddle, and then many chapters later, they follow up on it, and it was a difficult. And the scenes where he did that in the book don't exist in the show, and thankfully, I was able to get it in here.
Why? Am I about to hear one?
Three great
Am I about to hear one?
a priest and a rich man. Between them,
this was fun this day. I think at this point, Conleth was calling Peter Emmy.
Yeah, right?
I don't remember if Peter had actually won yet or if he was just a nominee at this point, but he was like, oh, okay.
I don't remember.
He's like, oh, all right, Emmy, whatever you say. They have a lot of fun together. And I remember Conleth could crack Sean Bean up more than anyone I ever saw. Sean would just laugh and laugh when they were off in between takes.
Well, they have great chemistry together. These two laugh all the time.
Oh, yeah. But this scene's very important. It's sort of, I guess if there's one unifying theme of this entire season is power and what that means, how that manifests itself. And this sort of encapsulates that whole idea. Did I use the word encapsulates right just then? I'm not sure I did.
Whatever it was.
We'll find out. The bloggers will tell me if I did or not. I was an actor. I don't know. I'm just making up this writing thing as I go along. Arya and Needle. I mean, what other show introduces one of its main characters into the episode and this far into it,
Boy, it worked.
Maisie Williams is Arya. Frances McGee is Yoren.
I love this scene. Yeah. I love this scene.
I do too.
You should be sleeping. Tomorrow's a long march.
This was originally in the script a scene between Arya and Hot Pie that was taken pretty much out of the book, where Hot Pie is asking Arya about Needle and how she got it, and she talks about Jon Snow, and it was a scene I was quite fond of. And after we did the first read-through, David and Dan informed me that we would have to replace that with a scene getting to know Yoren, and at first I resisted it, but oh man, were they right. This is, I think, one of the crowning achievements of the season between your directing and, frankly, David and Dan's writing. This is one of the few scenes in this episode that they really just wrote entirely on their own. And, of course, it's one of the best, the jerks. Everyone comes up to me saying, oh, the Yoren scene, incredible writing. I'm like, yes, it is. Unfortunately...
David, Dan, thank you.
Thank you. When I accept my Emmy, I'll be sure to...
mention their names.
But
what Maisie did here when she was delivering that line that she can't sleep. Do you remember in the very first take she did it with trembling in her voice
and tears in her eyes.
Tears came up, and then she held them. How does one do that? She did it.
It's amazing to find such intelligence and depth of feeling and just generosity in an actor so young and relatively inexperienced. It's astonishing. And all these veteran actors like Frances and Charles Dance, who has a ton of scenes with Maisie this season, made a point of saying that that she's an extraordinary actor to play with.
And boy, she takes direction. I mean, if you want her to change something, she changes it with such subtlety. It's unbelievable how well she's managing.
It's rare that you work on a project where the kids are the least of your worries. And man, these kids, Maisie, Sophie, I mean, I can't say it enough. Isaac. Even little Art, who plays Rickon, just terrific.
I just stood there.
What he does there, basically planting the idea into her head
Of the
prayer.
The list, the prayer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And it was a really great touch because you don't get the benefit of internal monologue in a TV series, and I think we realized that the audience wouldn't really understand what she was doing in the next episode when she starts doing the prayer, and this was a great way to tee that up.
Yeah.
And look at her. And this is, and this time I really nearly did ruin the take. I mean, I was, my heart was leaping out of my chest.
I remember
when
you were so excited.
when right there, that little doom. Oh, I mean,
it just happened. I mean, it just happened.
Yeah. I mean, this.
And that's why you want repeated takes, because, I don't think it was there on the first take.
Right.
There.
This is why we take so long, production.
Thank you very much for allowing us to do that, actually.
Yeah. And this, of course, is the prologue to the extended action sequence that ends the episode, which was a real beast to pull off on every level. Adaptation, execution.
That'll help you sleep, eh?
I gotta give credit to Chris and Bernie for allowing us another day. Because
Bernie Caulfield and Chris Newman.
they were.
Well, if we didn't, we quite simply couldn't have done it. We would have had to have got the sequence.
Yeah, no, I think they just totally understood what needed to be done and totally supported it.
And a little context here, in the book they are holed up in a holdfast, and it's actually they're up on high walls. And they're being attacked, and they're defending, from... It's an entirely different makeup. And I remember Chris Newman, our wonderful co-producer, he came up to me during pre-production and said, you know what? I should take you to the location, because it's nothing like the location that you scripted. There's a holdfast tower, but we can't actually be in the tower. It basically has to take place in this field. I'm so glad that he did, because he took me out there, showed me the location. I went and rewrote the scene to the location. And the other thing is I was tasked after the first draft with combining this sequence with a sequence that was supposed to happen in episode 4, which is the death of Lami and the imprisonment of the kids. So it's a big blend of a lot of events from the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then you brilliantly managed to get it all done.
I have to say that I spent quite a few days on that location scratching my head, and at some point I was thinking, how am I going to do this?
Oh, yeah.
And then I just wrote a chronology of the events and presented it to you and David and Dan and
Will Simpson. Will Simpson did a whole bunch of storyboards that really helped.
Absolutely. And then somehow it just came together and it worked.
Yeah, this was a real example of the collaborative, nature of the show. Everybody contributed something to make it right. And, at one point we weren't, I can't even fathom it now, but at one point we weren't going to have the fire. Remember? And remember you and I
said... we fought for it. And
we fought for it, yeah. I think there was some kind of notion that the fire would be too expensive and take up too much time. And
again, Chris and Bernie saw the light into this, and just they basically okayed it, and they said, yeah, you got it.
We concluded that all of the writing we had to do to make it work without fire was going to take up more time.
Yeah. And there's the fire.
And there's the fire.
And what Maisie does here is just unbelievable again.
And all kinds of, and I remember you had just different planes, right, that you were shooting on to sort of get it all done. Because we also had to deal with child labor restrictions.
Yes.
Maisie and Ben.
Oh,
Ben Hockey, who plays Hot Pie. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
They only had so long they could shoot every night. So we really,
I have to credit our crew, obviously, and our operators.
Long hours doing this one.
What do we have here?
I remember before this moment, you whispered in Maisie's ear, Jon Snow, right before we did the take.
Yeah.
Because this was the treasured gift that Jon gave her in episode 2 of our series.
And she heard it, man. Look.
Oh, man.
Just totally over the top that it all worked together, and it worked out.
Yeah, by the skin of our teeth, because I remember at the end, I think it's the final shot of the show where you're focusing on the helmet. We were there at the very,
as the light was coming
dawn
up.
was
Remember?
breaking.
Yep.
Oh man, and we had to get it. There was no time, and I can't stress this enough to the viewers at home. We don't have enough time to do this show, and somehow we do it.
You gotta carry me.
Well, not somehow. I mean, the hard work of an amazing crew.
The gods. The gods.
And the gods. The old and the new. And the drowned. And the Lord of Light. Oh, man. The third episode in a row that ends with the violent death of a child. So at least it's not a baby this time. Eros, who played
That was cold.
Lami. That was cold.
Oh, I love this death.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
Boom.
Samurai style.
Samurai.
Loved it.
We're looking for a bastard named Gendry. Give him up.
I'm so pleased with this episode. It was really, one of the highlights of working on this incredible show was spending each day on set with you. Honestly, I learned so much just about filmmaking and about storytelling and it really makes me so happy to see how it turned out.
Thank you, Bryan. It was wonderful to be there. Wonderful. The words were so strong. It's great.
This is the Game of Thrones Mutual Admiration Society for everyone listening at home. But it's true. It's a profoundly moving experience to see something that you worked on so hard be realized so effectively.
Boy, this hour just ran by so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, because it was like a 75-page script originally. But lean and mean works well.
Well,
so we'll do it again for season 3. Only, you aren't directing my episode, but I'll still be on set. Referencing the seagull.
Yes, we should. Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you. This is Bryan Cogman
and Alik Sakharov,
and we hope you enjoyed What Is Dead May Never Die.
Bye bye.
Valor Mogulis.